Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections for Thanksgiving. Well, I figured I'd put this up early. A lot of you, there's no football tonight here on Wednesday. I'm putting it up, but this is, of course, playing all through the weekend. But with no football tonight for the first time in 55 days, I thought I'd give you some football to look at with the tour this week. And the tour's been on a roll. 4-1 again last week. Now 16-8. And by the way, that one loss was Wake Forest last week. It made best bets, or excuse me, bad beats by Scott Van Pelt. Tough loss last week. I'll get into that in a little bit. But 4-1 last week, 16-8 the last 5 weeks. Getting a couple of unusual comments down below on the tour. Some guy last week, last 4 weeks, last 5 weeks, 16-8 last 5 weeks. You want it further? 62-44 over 21 weeks for the selections here on the tour. And in fact, our November tour record, an outstanding 26-13 over 2 years. Now the quick hitters, 12-11 over the last 5 weeks. But overall, the tour selection's doing extremely well. Great month of November last year, great month of November this year. Let's continue to roll along. And we're going to start out with a real popular one, the Revenge Game of the Week. Now, it's pretty easy for me, guys, picking the revenge game of the week, because when you go to the schedule schedule indicator, the schedule predictor, excuse me, as you can see here, the revenge plays are 81-38 over 2 years. So I get to pick one of those to put on the tour each week. And what's the record? How about 9-2 this year for the revenge play on the tour? I know you're loving it. It's usually the one that leads off the tour. And I've got it for you again. So your revenge play of the week, we're going to start with Illinois -7.5 over Northwestern. Now let's talk about the revenge part of this. Last year, Illinois was 5-6. They needed a win to get to a bowl. Northwestern ended their season with a tough loss. It's a game Illinois was favored in, had the yardage edge in, but ended up losing and went home, no bowl games. So they're playing with legitimate revenge here. The game is at Wrigley Field, which means Illinois is going to have probably close to equal amount of fans here for the game. So, and Illinois is on a roll this season. They're 8-3 this year. Northwestern, meanwhile, limping to the finish at this point. Also want to point out, when you go to my schedule with numbers here, a couple other factors pointing on this game. Illinois, my plus-minus power ratings, is a 14-point favorite. They got the revenge factor. Last time at Northwestern, Illinois won by 41. And you've got a solid away dog versus a poor home team. So add it all up, it's a 3 best bet indicator. And one thing I want to mention to you, the best bets up here, 9-4 last week. I just started this a few weeks back. 9-4. I'm adding up the best bets over here. All your best bets in the individual columns are in green. I add them up, and it comes out over here. Illinois is a 3 place, so they are indeed a best bet. There are a bunch of best bets this week, and they went 9-4 last week. So your revenge game of the week. Don't need to say a lot, because the revenge plays have been awesome for 2 years. They've been awesome here on the tour. 9-2 this year. We're going with Illinois -7.5 over Northwestern. All right, let's get to the schedule predictor play. And it is going to be Wisconsin hosting Minnesota. Let's take a look at this one. We put Wisconsin on the right because they're the home team. You put Minnesota on the left because they're the visitor. So as you can see here, Wisconsin still needs a win to get to a bowl game. That's important. Now, the best bets, as mentioned, went 9-1 last week. Let's see what kind of best bets we got working on it. Wisconsin last year on the road won by 14, which means if you take away Minnesota's 3-point home edge and add in Wisconsin's 3, it's a 6-point difference. They are should be a 20-point favorite. They're only laying 2.5, 2 in some spots. My preseason had Wisconsin by 10. I think the situation favors Wisconsin. They need a win, and they're at home. The strength of schedule favors Wisconsin. Let's go take a look at that. And for that, we go here. Once again, if you want to get to the schedule predictor, if you're using Phil Steele Plus, it's right here on your main menu. Just click Schedule Predictor. Click here to download the Schedule Predictor, and it takes you right there. It not only gets you these games, it gets you all 65 games for this week. But we're going to take a look at the strength of schedule on this one. I show you here, there's a 34-point difference. We see that Wisconsin is played the 15th toughest schedule this year, and that means Minnesota's played the 49th toughest schedule. Pretty big difference for this time of year. Wisconsin has played the tougher schedule. All right, so we got that going for us. Go back to the schedule predictor here, see what else we got going for us on this game. The series has Wisconsin at 22-5. Let's take a look at that. When you click here on the opponent, the series history pops up, and look at this. 22-5. Wisconsin has dominated this series, and usually after Minnesota wins a game, they win. They actually had 2 straight losses here and then one last year, so it's done very well series history-wise. Let's see what else we got. We got Wisconsin in conference play is plus 18 yards per game. Minnesota, meanwhile, is minus 26. So generally, when you get that, Wisconsin should be at least a 7-point favorite. Now, this is a new thing that I've added to the schedule with numbers, is this column out here, the Conference YPG. How about 25-16 since I've added it? You can't argue with that, and a play on Wisconsin. Overall, you got 6 best bets here, all on Wisconsin. It's one of the top plays on board. 9-4 last week for the best bets. It's a best bet, Wisconsin, minus 2 over Minnesota. All right, let's go to your strength of wins, pain of losses play. And this one's interesting. Originally, when I looked at Louisville and Kentucky, I looked at the fact that Kentucky had won the last 5 in the series, and that was probably a little bit of a factor going against Louisville for this one. But what favors Louisville? Well, a couple of things. First of all, if we go here to the Phil Steele Plus access, we can go to the strength of wins, pain of losses. Now, how this works. If you defeat a team, you get credit for every FBS win that team has. If they beat an FCS team, you don't get credit. If you beat an FCS team, you don't get credit. If you lose to a team, regardless, FBS or FCS, you get credit for every loss they have. So Louisville this year, it's interesting. They're actually way up here on the chart. They are 43-11 this year. Why are they 43-11? Well, look at their losses. At Notre Dame, SMU, Miami of Florida, not a lot of losses there. Stanford cost them a bunch of losses. But look at their wins. They've actually beat 5 bowl teams this year. So 5 bowl teams Louisville's beat, and that's why their strength to win, pain of losses is 43-11. Meanwhile, we look for Kentucky. They're way over here, 14-24. Why are they 14-24? Well, they beat Southern Miss, big deal. They beat Ohio, and actually they get credit for all of Ohio's wins, but Ohio benched their starting quarterback, didn't have their top running back, didn't have an offensive lineman. They basically mailed in the game getting ready for MAC play. They did beat Ole Miss. That's an impressive win, and the bulk of Kentucky's 14 wins are those 2 games, and they get 0 credit for wins here. They have a lot of losses, including teams that have lost games, like Vanderbilt, Florida, Auburn they lost to. That's when you take a look at the strength of wins, pain of losses, a big edge to Louisville in that factor. Let's see what else we got going. I do believe I have it here in the strength of schedule. We've got the fact that Louisville's playing with revenge, legitimate revenge. They were favored last year and lost. We take a look at the fact that my last 4 weeks AGG, look at Kentucky the last 4 weeks. Look at all the red in here. They're playing to a level of 99.6. Louisville playing well. They just crushed Pittsburgh. They beat Clemson. They beat Boston College. They did lose to Stanford, but had the yardage edge. They're playing to 115 level. Use this last 4 weeks. It's very important each week. So they're playing at 115.7 level. It ignores everything that happened just the last 4 weeks. Current form. Here's your current form over here, 99.6. Give them a 3-point home edge, 102. That still says Louisville by 13, and they're only laying 3.5 in this one. Got anything else? We got the fact that the series favors Kentucky, but it's not a best bet play because here Kentucky 13. So I take anything positive Louisville and subtract off the other one. That's why I didn't make it over here. But it seems like a pretty good play there. We are going to take a Louisville team playing with revenge. And by the way, you say, well, Kentucky is a home dog here. Let's take a look. And this came up on the Phil Steele Plus show. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's on YouTube, the Phil Steele Plus show. You can check it out on my Twitter where to find it. But when Kentucky's been a home dog, here, home favorite. Here they were a home dog to Louisville. They lost 44-17. Here they were a home dog to Louisville. They lost 38-24. Here they were a home dog to Louisville. They lost 27-13. The last 3 times they've been a home dog to Louisville, they've lost outright, 2 of them against the spread. So overall, your third play this week is to take Louisville minus 3.5 over Kentucky. All right, let's get to the series visitor play. All right, that's interesting. What's all that one about? We're going to put Louisiana on the left, and we are going to put UL Monroe on the right. Now, I've been following this series for a long time. And once again, if you want to know about the series, you just click on the opponent. It pops up. Here's the last 27 years. Look at all this red. If you add this up, and I'm not going to take the time to do it right now, but the visitor, and here's how the colors work. If the word is win, that means the home team won the game straight up. If this color is green, that means the home team covered. If it is red, the visitor covered. And as you can see there, the visitor is 20 wins, 4 losses, and 1 tie the last 25 years. But there's more. That's not the only reason to pick this game. And this one's interesting. If you don't follow Sunbelt football, I follow all 134 teams, but if you don't follow Sunbelt football, you might not realize UL Monroe I picked at the bottom of the Sunbelt at the start of the year, and they opened up great. Brian Vincent did a remarkable job. They opened up 5-1, even beat James Madison at home. That's tremendous. But the other factor in this one is that ULM's Cinderella carriage, at that point, they were a true Cinderella story, turned into a pumpkin. Look at the last 5 weeks. They are 0-5 straight up. The only game they covered was against Marshall when they got a backdoor cover, and they are minus 87 yards per game. Now, something to point out about Louisiana. They're playing really good. They did have one slip up here against South Alabama. Other than that, they've had good games every single week. The Tulane game, Tulane's a team that could make the playoff. They outplayed Tulane. Look at this, 421 to 355. Had a 22-18 first down edge, gave up 2 defensive touchdowns, 2 14-point swings against them, and that's why they lost the game. They were actually the better team than Tulane that day. This is a really good Louisiana team versus a pumpkin team in UL Monroe, whose carriage turned into a pumpkin, and they're 1-4 ATS. Conference YPG, they're plus 90 yards per game. These guys are minus 40, as you would expect when a good team plays a bad. And once again, this is a section that I added in, and best bets are in green, almost best bets are in yellow. I also added the technical angles, which is why I've got this one here for the visitor. The technical angles went 8-4 last week. I don't have all the records updated. Once again, ran out of time, especially trying to get this thing up by Wednesday. I'll have all those up and updated for you on the schedule predictor. But your play here, your series visitor play, we're going to take Louisiana minus 9.5 over UL Monroe. All right, well, the battle with the computer, guys. I tell you what, it's almost clinched. It would take a miracle for me to win this thing. The computer has beat me. Look at this. I won weeks 1, 3, 4, 5, and 8. The computer has won weeks 2, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. My best bets for the year, which started out great, are only 3 games above 500 for the year. The computer, meanwhile, on a roll again, 34-21 in 2024. And had I used the games the computer wanted me to use, there were 6 games that I put up here. They went 4-2. The computer is 38-23. Also, computer's best bets the last 21 weeks. That's all the way back to last year. How about 50-28? And the computer from the last week of October through the conference title game now 27-12. Last week, you guessed it, a perfect 3-0 for the computer. How about Air Force over Nevada, Notre Dame over Army, and Utah State over San Diego State? That was the computer's plays last week. Now, I tell you what. Give me just a second there. Catch my breath. I haven't given the discount on my press box for quite some time. I'm doing it this week. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I'm giving you your $5 discount. If you go to the store right here on philsteele.com, click on the store, you will see the single issue of press boxes right here. Don't pay the $20. You get 65 game write-ups this week, and I'm going to explain those in depth, but I'm giving you $5 off. So click here, go to the store. Here's where you get the FCS magazine. Here's where you can sign up for press box for the rest of the year, things like that. Phil Steele Plus is right here. I'm not going to bring you back to this page when I talk about Phil Steele Plus. But anyway, type in the code word BATTLE24. All 65 games. My computer forecast, my forecast, just $15. Use the code word BATTLE24. All right, I'm bringing it back this week. I am bringing back the computer wanted to use, but I wouldn't let it play. And we're going to click right here on this one, and I'm going to bring it up here. The computer wanted to use Virginia Tech minus 7.5 over Virginia. It's got a 29-15 with a large yardage edge, 410 to 278, a total dominating win, 29-15 Virginia Tech. Now, the reason I didn't is the quarterback situation, but I get the feeling that Virginia Tech's going to be okay at quarterback. So I probably should have let the computer use this play, but I didn't let it, and the computer's mad at me. The computer's already taunting this at me, its overall record for the year. So if you guys would like a computer play that the computer wanted to use, 38-23 overall in the year, 27-12 in November, just go ahead and use Virginia Tech minus 7.5 over Virginia. In that one. There is more, I think, on that one. If you take a look at the AGG, it's on their side, last 4 weeks AGG. And how about this series? In this series, and the one thing I want to point out, get out of the store here and go back to Phil Steele Plus. We'll go back here. Okay, let me click Virginia Tech just for a minute to show you this interesting stuff. I don't know if you know this or not, but we got Virginia Tech against Virginia. Look at this record, 18-1 straight up. In fact, Virginia's lost their last 11 games here in Blacksburg, and they're 2-9 ATS. They won 33. You see all the wins right here? This is a series that Virginia Tech is dominant. My computer really wanted to use it. It's Virginia Tech minus 7 over Virginia. All right, those are your 5 official selections, but I got 7 quick hitters for you. A lot of good stuff. It's a super deep weekend. This is the most games on the card of the year. And remember, if you want to join Phil Steele Plus, we've reduced the price all the way down to $69. You type in expert wins, you can get Phil Steele Plus through the Super Bowl for $59. Ton of stuff. I'll have more on the FCS tour, which will probably be up early this week as well. I'll have that for you then. But let's take a look at your quick hitters. We got FIU is playing Middle Tennessee State. Florida International is at home for this one. And Middle Tennessee State's over here. This is another one that my computer liked, and I'm just giving you an idea of what you get with the 65 plays from the thing. You get a complete write-up on the game. You get all the stats on the game. These are all things that are in the schedule predictor. And you also get the computer forecast. Here, the computer's got Florida International 32-15 over Middle Tennessee State. And it makes a lot of sense. If you look at Florida International at home, they've buried some teams. Central Michigan 52-16. I believe the computer had a best bet on that one. Louisiana Tech, they covered. New Mexico State, they won 34-13. Once again, I believe the computer had a best bet. So when FIU is at home, they play extremely well, almost upset Sam Houston State. They're at home. They're taking on a Middle Tennessee State team whose only wins were at Kennesaw State and at UTEP. They've been struggling this year. If you take a look at the last 4 weeks, let me see if I've included this in the schedule with numbers. I did not. But they've got, in the last 4 weeks, they're playing to a 94 level. They're playing to an 81. Add in the 3-point home edge. That's FIU by 16. There's a lot of good factors here for FIU. Plus the home team in this series. Let's take a look at that. If you click on this, yeah, we go back here. The home team is 7-1 against the spread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1 against the spread for the home team in this one. And Florida International's at home. So add it all up. Take Florida International minus 9 over Middle Tennessee. All right, how about we're going to put LSU on the right and we're going to put Oklahoma on the left. LSU on the right. Let's see what we got on this one. Oklahoma on the left. Now, I've been telling you all season long, Oklahoma's not as bad as their record. If they played an easier schedule, like Missouri's schedule, they'd probably be 7-3, 8-2. They proved it last week when they beat Alabama. But here's something I found interesting. If you go to the last 10 years, straight up in ATS records, look at how many times Oklahoma has been an away dog. They're an away dog this week. Since 2014, they have been an away dog 4 times, and they're 4-0. Now, who's been an away dog just 4 times in 10 years? Don't you love these spread records? These are actually more than what is in the magazine, because you get what they do is a favorite, double-digit favorite, underdog. How about conference away dog, 3-0 in that span? Conference favorite, conference dog versus ranked teams. 4-0 as an away dog versus ranked teams versus top 10 teams. It's all in there. On every single team, we give it the last 10 years. Then, if you want an update on this year's, you go to the logs, you go to the college logs, and there they are. So we're going to take a look at Oklahoma, and you don't have to fill in your scorebook. I love the pictures you guys send me filling in your magazine. I love it. But if you don't fill in your magazine, here it is all done for you. So look at them as an away dog. They beat Auburn, and they covered against Ole Miss. 6-0 as an away dog. And remember, they were favored at Missouri, a 3-point favorite, so they were not a dog. 6-0 as an away dog, and that dates back 11 years now. We also have FCS logs available for you. Nobody's got those. We've got them. And, of course, NFL logs, if you follow along with the NFL. I don't talk NFL much. I don't watch NFL much. I am a college football guy, but we have all the information you need for the NFL on this site. So, anyway, you've got that going for you. And over the last 4 weeks, Oklahoma's playing at 117.2 level. LSU's playing at 109 level. Add the 3-point home edge, 112. That still says Oklahoma by 5, and they're a 6-point dog. Take Oklahoma plus 6 over LSU. All right, Baylor is hosting Kansas. Let's take a look at that one. We're going to put Baylor on the right and Kansas on the left. And this one I'll try to make short and sweet. Baylor is playing really good offense. Look at this, 475 yards per game the last 4 weeks. But the one thing I want to point out is when we click on Kansas here, look at this domination. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 in a row straight up. And these are all double-digit wins. And look at how many they've covered. 3, 6, 9, 11 in a row straight up they have covered. They are 12-1 against the spread, 13-0 straight up. And they are an underdog, a home underdog for this game to Kansas, plus 1.5. So Baylor is the play here. We're going to take Baylor plus 1.5 over Kansas, a huge play there. Now you got a game here. Ball State is playing Ohio U. And I got a couple of things I want to point out here. The numbers are a little close. If you went to the schedule predictor, you'd see a lot of the indicators say, hey, Ball State might play this one close. But here's what I want to point out. Ball State head coach was Mike New. Now it's Colin Johnson. They've just fired him last game. They had been playing close games. They lost to Central by 3, Western by 3, 6 to Miami, 3 here. Now, last week they fired Coach New. He's been there forever. Generally, there's a head coaching bounce. And into last week, teams that had the head coaching bounce were 4-0 ATS. Ball State didn't have that bounce. They lost by 25. What does that tell me? It tells me that Ball State is done with the season. They lost their head coach. All the coaches are right now trying to find jobs for next year. They're all gone next year. So they've got to find new jobs. The players are probably thinking portal. And what do we got here with Ohio? We got a team that's a buzzsaw. I can tell you when I talked to Ohio's defensive coordinator prior to the year, went over the team with them, he felt it would be like this. Look at 2022. They started out the season with a lot of red. They got dominant during this rest of the season. And look what's happened this year. They started out with some red, and now look at all this green. 114, 266, 212 the last 3 weeks. That's a dominant defense. They've been dominant overall. They're outgaining foes by 180 yards per game the last 4 weeks. They're at home. A win here puts them in the MAC title game. They got a lot of stuff going for them here. We're taking Ohio, minus 15 over Ball State. All right, let's look at one of the big matchups this week, and you got Oregon playing against Washington. This is one of the rare times I'm going to pick against the revenge pick. Oregon is a revenge pick. They lost last year, 2 tough losses. They lost to Washington here in the title game, and they lost to Washington during the season, both as favorites. They are playing with legitimate revenge. But here's why I'm going against it this week. Washington is a team much better than their record. Now, Washington has struggled on the road. I'm looking for him in the Pac-12. Tells you it's tough to keep up with college football, huh? Washington has lost all their games on the road this year by the 18 points per game. That's why Oregon's a large favorite. Oregon is a much better team, but here's some surprising numbers on Oregon. They're only number 10 in my AGG. In fact, last year, let's take a look at their home record. They won their games 49-14 at home. They won big, they left no doubt. This year, they're winning by 15 points per game at home. That's not Oregon. And that's why their AGG is only number 10 in the country, despite the fact they're number 1 in the country, and rightfully so, in the AP poll and the playoff predictor. Look at Washington. Now, generally when a team limps in here with 5 losses, they don't have great numbers, but they're holding opponents. If you look at this column, they have held opponents to 63 yards below their average. That's number 25 in the country. And they are gaining 43 yards above their opponent's average. That's number 44 in the country. Yes, the game's on the road, but they had a bye last week. Some of these road games they had across the country road, across the country road, across the country road, across the country road. This one's not across the country. It's Oregon, a stadium they've played in, a stadium they're familiar with, and a stadium they've actually had success with beating Oregon. So you have a lot of factors in Washington's favor. And here's the last factor, and the big one. Next week, Oregon plays Ohio State. Doesn't matter what they do against Washington. It's what they do against Ohio State. And you may not know this, but Oregon's going to be an underdog against Ohio State. So they've got it gets to the fourth quarter. They led up in the fourth quarter against Michigan State, for example. They led that thing 31-10, and then they gave up 2 late scores. Washington, I think, can hang with them, and there's no reason to blow them out. The line's huge. At 19.5, we're going to take Washington plus the 19.5, plus the 20 against Oregon this week. How about New Mexico State against UTEP? Now, New Mexico State's at home. Once again, probably a team you're not following, but the one thing I have followed with New Mexico State this year, they are great at home. They are lousy on the road. Let's show you. This Liberty game, they almost won. They outplayed Liberty. You see, they led 17-9 at the half. Looked like they were on their way to the win. They lost. New Mexico, they did lose by 10. Didn't cover by a half point, but played well. Beat Louisiana Tech at home. Covered against Western Kentucky. Once again, played that game well. We're in it start to finish. And then here they are playing UTEP. So they're much better at home. Now let's see how they do as a favorite. Well, as a home favorite, look at this, 14-7, but take away this 1-1, take away this 2-3 here, 2-4. That means they are 12-3, 1, 2, 3 the last 5 years heading into this year. They have an outstanding record as a home favorite. In fact, 12-4 ATS as a home favorite. If you take a look at UTEP, how do they play on the road? This is a team that's just 12-49 straight up on the road. And then when we look at the series, and when we go to the series here, we see that the New Mexico State 5-2 or 5-1 against the spread in the series. So you got the series, you got the strong home team, you got the weak road team, and they're only laying 3 points. I like what New Mexico State did last week, by the way, going into Middle Tennessee State and winning. That's another point in your FIU column that I talked about. This New Mexico State, which plays poorly on the road, beat Middle Tennessee. Now Middle's on the road against a team that's great at home. Another point for FIU that I didn't make there. And finally, let's take a look at Central Michigan and Northern Illinois. Now, Coach McElwain is an outstanding coach for Central Michigan, and he has announced he is retiring. I almost get the feeling he told his team he was retiring prior to the Western Michigan game because they went and beat Western Michigan at home in a big upset last week with a 307 to 184 yard edge. It is the final game for them and Coach McElwain, and they are also in this series. Let's take a look how they've done against Northern Illinois. Central Michigan's actually 8-2 straight up, 9-1 ATS, and look at this. Upset, 7 upsets in the last 10 years, with 6 of them by Central Michigan. So it's an upset series. Now, but Northern Illinois is at home, you say. Well, let's take a look at Northern Illinois as a home favorite. Northern Illinois, 1-4, 0-5. They were 1-9 coming into the year, and this year, home favorite. They lost outright to Buffalo, didn't cover against UMass, lost outright to Toledo, and I don't know if they covered against Akron or not, but you have a poor home favorite, 5-16. Central Michigan dominates the series. The dog has pulled 7 upsets, and it is Jim McElwain's final year as the head coach. So we take a look. I offered you the discount on the newsletter. I gave you the tour. I think I've covered everything. And a couple things to point out here. Oh, the Wake Forest. I'll just do that real quick, just in case you didn't do it. And we did this last week. It did make bad beats. There's a couple more plays in the game they didn't show on bad beats. And by the way, I go through the box score of every single game, and it's right here on the site, which is the purpose of me showing you this, that these box scores are available. Look at this. Early in the game, I'm watching it, and I've got Wake, and I'm plus 23.5. So you got this one pretty easy. And it's 10-7. Look at this Wake Forest drive. We're driving. All right, we got a 1st and 10 at the Miami 12. A penalty sets us back a little, but 2nd and 16. We're going to score and go up in this game. Look at this, the dreaded 14-point swing, 76-yard interception return for a touchdown. But we even overcome a 14-point swing. Wake Forest playing really good ball. They're plus 23.5. They're on the road, and now we go to the fourth quarter. And what's the score? The score in the fourth quarter is... I'll find out in a minute. It is 21-14. Miami drives down and gets a touchdown. No big deal. We're down 14, getting 24.5. The kickoff is fumbled. They fumble the kickoff at their own 21. Miami tucks in a touchdown, 35-14. But guess what? Wake drives down the length of the field, 4th and 1 at the 15-yard line. We're going to kick a field goal? No, the field goal would have clinched it. We're going to score a touchdown? No, we get stopped on down. So what does Miami do? They rip off a 61-yard run, or else they would have just run out the clock. They get down here 2nd and 8. They throw a pass, 15 yards for the cover with 1:53 left. They wanted to get Ward his Heisman numbers, and they cover the game by 28. A tough, bad beat last week. At this time, I'd like to thank you for taking the tour over the Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you and your family have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you enjoyed the Phil Steele Plus tour. I say through the year, I got more tours coming up. I'll have one for the Conference Championship games, and the Conference Championship games did well last year as well, so I'll be back with you then, and thank you, generally, from my heart, for taking the time to watch the Phil Steele Plus tour. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm glad you appreciate it.